Hello students, welcome to the 10th standard social science class. Today we are going to go through the lesson Challenges to Democracy. Before starting the class, as usual, I want you to get ready with a pen and a book to note down the important points as we are going through this important lesson. So are you ready, children? So at different points in this tour of democracy, we have noted the serious challenges that democracy faces all over the world. A challenge is not just any problem. We usually call only those difficulties a challenge which are significant and which can be overcome. A challenge is a difficulty that carries within it an opportunity for progress. Once we overcome a challenge, we go up to a higher level than before. Different countries face different kinds of challenges. At least 1/4 of the globe is still not under democratic government. The challenge for democracy in these parts of the world is very stark. These countries face the foundational challenge of making the transition to democracy and then instituting democratic government. This involves bringing down the existing non-democratic status, keeping military away from controlling government, and establishing a sovereign and functional state. Most of the established democracies face the challenge of expansion. What is this? This involves applying the basic principle of democratic government across all the regions, different social groups and various institutions. Ensuring greater power to local governments, extension of federal principle to all the units of the federation, inclusion of women and minority groups, etc., falls under this challenge which is called as challenge of expansion. This also means that less and less decisions should remain outside the arena of democratic control. Most countries, including India and other democracies like the USA, face this challenge. The third challenge which we are going to read is challenge of deepening of democracy, which is faced by every democracy in one form or other. What does this involve? This involves strengthening of the institutions and practices of democracy. This should happen in such a way that people can realize their expectation of democracy. But ordinary people have different expectations from democracy in different societies. Therefore, this challenge takes different meanings and paths in different parts of the world. In general terms, it usually means strengthening those institutions that help people's participation and control. This requires an attempt to bring down the control and influence of the rich and powerful people in making governmental decisions. So let us go forward and see what is in store for us. So we are going to cover meaning of challenges of democracy, broader challenges to democracy, different context and different challenges we analyze across the world, political reforms. We will be reading a case study about doctor absenteeism and political funding. We are going to redefine democracy, what is good democracy. So what is democracy? Democracy means rule by the people. It ensures that every citizen takes part in the decision-making process either directly or indirectly through the elected representatives. I repeat, so democracy, it is a rule by the people, and it also ensures that every citizen takes part in the decision-making process either directly or indirectly through the elected representatives. Meaning or challenges to democracy. A challenge in literal means a demanded situation that requires some kind of action. Challenges to democracy means problems that come while ensuring a democratic setup in the country. It discusses the issues that need to be solved to sustain democracy in the country. This is what is meant by challenges to democracy. 3 challenges of democracy, as I gave in this introduction of the lesson. So we are going to repeat it again because it's very important. It has come many times. What is democracy? So democracy means rule by the people. It ensures that every citizen takes part in the decision-making process by casting their vote especially. Okay. And it's directly or indirectly through elected representatives. There are 3 broader challenges to democracy. Remember, there are 3 challenges to democracy. First one is the foundational challenge. Countries that do not have the democratic setup face the challenge of making a transition, means a slow change to the democratic style of government. In all over the world, 1/4 of the countries are still not under democratic government. They need to lay the foundation in terms of law and policies that would be allowed under democratic setup. So this is the first challenge. It is called as foundational challenge. The second one is challenge to expansion or challenge of expansion. Countries already having the democratic setup face the challenge of expansion or expanding into various social groups and regions. Such countries need to ensure that more social groups, regions and institutions follow democracy in their functioning. This also means that more power is distributed among the lower levels of government. So the second point is challenge to expansion. Third point or third challenge, deepening of democracy, which is faced by every democracy in one form or other. Every democratic country needs to strengthen the institutions that ensures democracy. It means strengthening the institutions that help in people's participation and control in the government. So particular challenges to Indian democracy. We are going to see what are the particular challenges to Indian democracy. So India is the largest democracy in the world. In the last 6 decades, the 60 years, it has worked successfully and achieved a lot in various spheres. Indian Constitution granted fundamental rights to its citizens. It is very helpful to meet the diversity in India. However, it has failed very miserably in many spheres. Social and economic inequality still exists today. Poverty and unemployment, illiteracy and ignorance, casteism, communalism, population explosion, regionalism, linguism, means about languages, separatism, corruption and terrorism. These are the various challenges faced by the Indian democracy even till date. So these have to be resolved in one way or the other. We should come with different solutions. So these are the challenges which are faced by the Indian democracy even today. So how to go about, we have to see in a different manner. Okay, these are the challenges. So how we could reform democracy? All the challenges of democracy is linked to the possibility of reforms. Along with the challenges, we need to think about overcoming the constraints. Generally, all the suggestions or proposals about overcoming various challenges to democracy are called democratic reforms or political reforms. All the countries do not have the same challenge. So we cannot follow the same recipe of political reform. In India, we need to develop some proposals for reforms at the national level. But the real change not only takes at the national level, some challenges are faced at state and local level also. So just go through this, learn how we could reform democracy. So as we have seen, there are various challenges. Each of these challenges which we studied are linked to possibility of reforms. Generally, all the suggestions or proposals about overcoming various challenges to democracy are called democratic reforms or political reforms. So we developed some proposals for reforms at the national level, but the real challenge, as we discussed, lies at the state or sometimes local level also. It is very tempting to think of legal ways of reforming politics, to think of new laws, to ban undesirable things. But this temptation needs to be resisted. No doubt, law has an important role to play in political reform. Carefully devised changes in law can help to discourage wrong political practices and encourage good ones. But legal constitutional changes by themselves cannot overcome challenges to democracy. This is like the rules of cricket. A change in rules of leg before wicket, what we call usually LBW decisions, help to reduce negative batting tactics. But no one would ever think that the quality of cricket could be improved mainly through the changes in the rules. This is to be done mainly by the players, coaches and administrators. Similarly, democratic reforms are to be carried out mainly by political activists, parties, movements and politically conscious citizens. So as we discussed, as I told you, I am going to repeat this again. The law has an important role to play in political reform. It would help to discourage wrong political practice and encourage good ones. But legal constitutional changes by themselves cannot overcome the challenges of democracy. I mean to say that if just a change is done or some change is done, it cannot improve the democracy. So it should be actually practiced by the players who are in the political arena. So let us take an example here. So this is like the rules of cricket. A change in the rules of LBW decision, leg before wicket, helped to reduce negative batting tactics. But no one ever thinks that the quality of cricket could be improved mainly through changes in the rules. This is done mainly by the players, coaches and administrators or administrators. Similarly, democratic reforms are to be carried out mainly by the political activists, parties, movements and politically conscious citizens. So that's how you can introduce a law. Need to analyze the result of the law. Legal changes sometimes may be led to the counterproductive. For example, many states banned people who have more than 2 children from contesting panchayat elections. This has resulted in the denial of democratic opportunity to many poor and especially women. Generally, laws that seek to ban something are not very successful in politics. However, the best laws are those which empower people to carry out democratic reforms. The Right to Information Act, a very good act, a good example of a law that empowers the people to find out what is happening in government and act as watchdogs of democracy. It would help control corruption and strict penalties. So the second one is the need to analyze the result of the law. Let us see the third one. From theory to practicals or practicals. Democratic reforms are to be brought about principally through political practice. The main focus of political reforms should be on ways to strengthen democratic practice. Any proposal for reform should think not only about what is a good situation or a solution, but also about who will implement it and how. So, it should be able to answer 2 questions. Who will implement and how is it going to be implemented or put into practice? The legislature would pass a law or particular law, and the citizens, organization and media needs to be implemented or needs to implement that particular act or the law. So we are going to discuss some certain measures to deepen democracy. So we are going to discuss some measures which are ready here to deepen democracy. So what are those? Just look into the slide, children. So this is about how we are going to bring a change Okay, how we are deepen democracy. We are going to deepen democracy. So to provide the education to all the citizens, a literate society is the most important resource for the country. Education brings qualitative changes in the people and enables them to use better tools and knowledge. It would bring awareness of political rights of a person. Individuals are aware of their political rights and exercise them. Fundamental rights. These are provided by the Constitution, which ensure that every citizen has a right and are protected and secure. They cannot be taken away by any government. It would result or it would increase the faith of the people in Constitution. Freedom of press. The freedom of press has the freedom to form the public opinion by giving views and news on the issues facing by the country. It would make awareness to the people what is happening in the society. Okay, these are some of the challenges which are how we can deepen democracy. So we began this tour of democracy last year, but now we then looked at many cases and expanded definition slightly to add some qualification. The rulers elected by the people must take all the major decisions. Elections must offer a choice and fair opportunity to the people to change the current rules. This choice and opportunity should be availed to all the people on an equal basis. And the exercise of this choice must lead to government limited by basic rules of the Constitution. So thank you so much, children. We come to the end of this particular lesson. Hope you are reading well. Do complete your homework in time.